Hey guys, what's up? Mir Ryder here. We are hosting the LATAM GTM show. Today's episode, what a $3,000 SDR in Colombia really looks like. A lot of misconceptions about that. My man Alejandro Obergroen with the bright red laptop. How you doing today?
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be here. Great to be with ex-teammates as well. So yeah, ready to kick it.
We got Danny Agudelo, VP of Global Talent.
How you guys doing? Glad to have Alejo here.
And Mr. Menjura, David Menjura, number
hey
one.
Hey guys, pleasure to be here.
Number one in HR and LinkedIn, but he's really a revenue leader. We got to get that fixed, David. Yeah. But want to kick it off, guys. I'm like, look, we all know each other. I met Danny Agudelo maybe almost 9 years ago. He was the manager at the hotel I was staying in Park GRS, Medellin, and then I met Alejandro with. He came along with his cousin and his brother because there's not just one Obergroen. But over the last 10 years, we've been awesome that we've been really bringing down B2B sales to Colombia. Probably helped over 10,000 people get jobs. But back again, man, this misconception of cheap labor versus leverage. Maybe you tell everyone about your journey, man. How did you start in sales? Were you selling to Latin American companies? Were you always selling to U.S. companies? Like, how'd you get here?
Yeah. Well, thanks again. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, it all started off, I would say, like 12 years ago when I actually began working at call centers for American companies, and there I kind of started seeing that I had some talent on the phone, right? Doing retentions, customer support, just stuff like that. But after a while, I kind of, shout out to Eddie Bello, who also worked here as well. I learned about CloudTest and decided to move to Medellin in 2014. That's when kind of like I started in sales when I began in CloudTest and actually started doing BDR work for a healthcare recruitment agency.
Ideal staff. I remember
personnel. Shout out to Justin.
So were you born in Bogota?
Yeah, I was born in Bogota, but I grew up in Houston, Texas. Then came back to Bogota, lived in Cartagena.
Because your accent's really thick, it's kind of hard to understand you. But so like right off the bat, man, you never even worked for a Colombian company, huh? You started working. You worked for a Colombian call center, but always working in the English markets.
That's right. Yes. Taking advantage that I grew up in Houston, Texas, I kind of used that to leverage my skill set, and that's where it all began in the call center world.
Yeah, like it's a big call center place here too. Well, Danny, what about you, man? You also have a thick. Your accent's kind of heavy. Where were you born?
Yeah, I mean, I was born here in Medellin, but also lived in New York and Florida for quite a few years. So similar to Alejandro, didn't get my chance to go to Texas, but also worked for American companies for the last 12 years. Started working in the hotel industry, like some of you that are, candidates out there might have been in the hospitality industry. And yeah, I've been working with American companies for the last 12 years, also leveraging, that cultural fit and also the software that we've been learning as we keep growing.
David, what about you, man? I could barely understand you, but sometimes.
Yeah, I started working for Fitbit back in the call center moment, I guess, where everybody had a call center, but that has reduced a lot with the remote jobs. But I wasn't born. I was raised in New Jersey, Patterson, New Jersey, and I came to Colombia when I was 17, 16. And then I also started just like Alejandro, the customer service. Then I went into customer support, technical support. Then I went into SDR, and then I kind of rolled in there. I also started working with Apollo, and then that's when my career kind of took off within CloudTest. But happy to be here and happy to help a lot of people get jobs.
So it's awesome that everybody here kind of had, like, maybe not you, but most of you guys had to start at call centers. I think it's a misconception that like Colombia only has call centers, but in the United States has the most call centers. And there's a lot of people who get their start in call centers in Colombia, but obviously there's a niche where there are a lot of call centers in Colombia servicing the U.S. market. I don't think SDRs were a big thing for a while, right? It was mostly customer support,
right?
And I think Alejandro, you were kind of that new wave of SDRs. Like how has the SDR job evolved since you started the role to now being, what I would call a senior SDR?
Yeah, well, it's certainly changed a lot. Before it was more about just doing a lot of activities and not really understanding what drove the best results. So it at the beginning, it's a bit hard, right? But throughout the years, what I've learned, and one thing that I really got at CloudTask was that you need to have a structure behind everything that you do. You need to measure what you're doing, and that's the only way that you'll be successful. So for me, it's just been about, in this 10 years, just pushing hard, showing up every day with a good attitude, just trying to make it happen. And things start to fall in place, like opportunities just open up for you. But it's also kind of like your mindset. I think that's the biggest, kind of like the biggest take for me is just like, is my mindset correct? And if not, then I won't be successful. So I think that's been like the biggest kind of like lesson for me.
Well, I noticed you don't like your mic. You got to make sure people can hear you, But do you think it's just a LATAM thing where like everywhere, the US, UK, LATAM, like 10 years ago was about activity, and now it's about quality everywhere, or is that just a LATAM thing?
I think that's everywhere. I think it's
everywhere too.
Yeah, because LATAM, even though we're here, we can't operate too different from what people do in the US. We have to adapt to that same strategy and try to do it the same, right? So anything that works for the US, works from, we have to replicate that, right? So that falls into trying other channels, SMS, LinkedIn, trying video as well, which is something that a lot of people didn't used to do, and I think now is pretty big, right?
Video's back?
I think so. I think depending on the type of product or service that you sell, you can definitely make a customized video that makes a difference, right? And cuts through the noise, because not a lot of people are doing this. I think right now a lot of people are just relying on AI to kind of like build messaging and do stuff for them. And there's like an overload. That's why email reply rates are so low and just open rates have pummeled, because everyone's just relying on AI. So I feel like one of the things that has always maintained that I think is important is just cold calling. I think that, it never goes old fashioned to pick up the phone. It's worked always. And obviously depending on what industry you're in, but I think it's the main channel before, and it is still right now.
Alejo, I have a question for you. So you mentioned video, right, as prospecting. I'm seeing a lot of people approach video as it's just unique, but are you using that opportunity to make the video to talk about something very specific on a very well-researched approach, or?
I think video needs to, it can't be something where you just scale it too quick. It needs to be personalized. You need to put in the work. The person needs to see that you're doing some type of research, or else it won't hit the nail on the head. It won't feel personal. It won't resonate with them, right? And I think it just goes back to the same. Are you speaking about their challenges? Are you talking about their world? Do you know their world a little bit? Do you know their company? And just like a cold call, it's important that you do your research, that you know the company well before you reach out to someone. And if you have something that adds value, then great, you're gonna be successful. But I think, whether you're doing video, whether you're doing cold call, whether you're doing emails, it's just all different channels. But your messaging in terms of like, am I helping this person? Like, why am I reaching out to them in the first place? I think that's what salespeople need to think.
I'm going to help you out with your business challenge, because I can see this big, red, beautiful laptop right here, and then you got water stacked right here on the top, and I'm going to move this over here, and I'm going to move your microphone over here.
All right.
And now I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable talking about what you just said, which is one of the things I noticed, right?
Yeah.
I've been starting to talk about with obviously top talent in Latin America, and like what I noticed is that a lot of the times SDRs forget the fact that like you're always solving someone's business challenge, right? And if you're communicating something with somebody, it's always around one business challenge, right? And I think sometimes what I noticed that SDRs, whether in LATAM or whether in the United States, they forget the fact that like everything, if you work for a company, I'll give you an example, it's on my mind, because I know, we just had an interview with a company that they specifically help companies that spend call it $80,000 to $90,000 a month on paid media, right? Ads on Facebook, Google, right? And I was coaching some reps that were, you know, senior SDRs in the calls, and like I asked a few times, I'm like, you know, what do you do to, you know, overcome? Like, what do you do to follow up on a lead, right? And like they forgot that, like, they're always asking the same question, like, hey, Alejandro, like, do you find it hard spending $80,000 a month and managing multiple ad campaigns, right? And I think you have to remember as an SDR that you're always solving a business challenge, and if you're not lasered in on the fact that you're solving a business challenge, they think it has to be so many things, right? It has to be video, SMS, and I would push back and just be like, you need to really know that business challenge you're solving, right? Yeah. And you know, for many VPs of sales right now, right? Let's bring it back to like what you said about like AI, right? I think what's ironic is that if you look back even 10 years ago, like you used to work for Apollo, right? Yeah. Sequences lived in Apollo, right? So like 5 years before, back in 2012, I was working at NetSuite, and we were sending like 25 emails per week without sequencers, right? So like you could almost say that like a sequence was this big breakthrough in automation, which built Outreach, SalesLoft, all these companies, right? So I think the big mistake that companies are making is that what they don't realize is that the AI SDR and AI is just, it's automating more of the busy work to allow an SDR to do what they always should have done, which was to have personal conversations and build relationships around business challenges, right? Because you're here like being like, I do well on the phone, right? We're going to talk about some of the results you get for you know, we know that you work for an e-commerce company that's a hyper-growing company in America doing agency work, helping e-commerce brands, right? And you got your Apollo open, and you can go over his stats, right? Before we get that, is it safe to say that anybody who's using AI to automate but does not put highly trained SDRs that can have conversations is literally going to mess up their pipeline?
Yeah, I think 100%. Because if not, you can just like have AI running by itself, right? But I feel like different channels also just feed outbound in different ways. So like your emails have a low open rate, right? But it's a way for you to stay relevant, and you need to tap into the other channels, right? So if you just, I think in a way, like companies worry a lot about like just automating everything and putting a lot of AI behind it, but they don't put the right talent. And at the end of the day, like if your talent is not well trained, if they don't understand the product, if they don't understand the challenges that the buyer persona that they're selling to have, then good luck. You know, you can spend thousands of dollars setting up Apollo, setting up a CRM, and then that person connects a call, and in 30 seconds they just burn the bridge. You basically just, how much money did you spend there, like in salaries, tech, everything? So yeah, I think putting the right talent behind the strategy is everything, and you need to put several hours behind that. I think a big difference between like US talent and Latin American talent is that with the Latin American talent, you do need to invest a bit more time into training and setting up the program. You can't just assume that they'll know, or that they'll kind of like execute perfectly with little instruction. I think it's really important to invest the right amount of time as either as a CEO or your SDR leader, to ensure that the team has not just the right tools, but the right type of coaching,
let's dive into that, right? So basically, it's like, have you noticed the pattern that like U.S. companies spend $8,000 to $9,000, whatever, call it $1,000 a month, and they're making such big investments in SDRs that then they're like, oh my God, I need some insurance on my investment, and they spend more money on training and certifications and all that stuff because they spend a lot, and then they come to LATAM where they have leverage, right? And they're like, wait, let me just spend the lowest I can and not train, right? Do you see that happen often, where it's like an extreme on different direction?
Yes. I've seen that a lot, right? Even, you know, working for CloudTask, I also sold CloudTask when it was also an outsourced agency, and I also worked for another growth engine as well. That's also an agency. And I noticed that from a lot of CEOs and VPs of sales and sales leaders is that they tend to think that they can just kind of set up a quick list and some messaging that's very general and have people go through a lot of dials, and then give little to no coaching. And I think that just like sets you up for failure, right? And the whole team. So I've seen that happen a lot, and that's why I'm saying like there needs to be that investment of time where you're giving them feedback, you tell them exactly what you need from them, and this has to happen like once or twice a week. It can't be something that you expect them to self-manage and you check in every month and that's it. No, it need that. They need to receive like that consistent feedback.
Do you think it's like a lack of education, or like do you think it's almost like, hey, I hired somebody, I paid them, they do their job, it's not my fault? You think they're afraid of the training? You think they're afraid of the structure? How many times have you actually seen a VP of sales hit the phone's call and book a meeting to show you the way?
Not a lot. And I think that makes a huge difference, right? When you set up an SDR leader or a VP of sales, I think it needs to be people who understand outbound. It's not just people who understand, like, I think there's different areas of sales that almost you can just kind of like master in, right? Closers are great at what they do, but sometimes not all closers are great openers, right? Then you have your openers that can be great openers, but maybe they're not good closers, right? So you have to structure your team out correctly as well. And I think, as what I'm seeing a lot with openers is that they put people that aren't exactly good at outbound work to lead people. They're more like a manager, like a kind of like a project manager, if you will, but they don't actually jump on the phones. They don't actually help build messaging. They don't understand the product as well.
And what happens? They fire the rep and they have no pipeline?
Yeah, so what I think happens a lot, and you guys have probably seen this as well, is that people end up paying a rep for like about 6 months to a year. The rep learns the essence of a few things, and then ends up leaving to another job because now they have
We see it all the time.
right?
Yeah.
And they get paid more, and now the previous company where they were at, they just lost all the money. They just paid for the training of that person,
Yeah,
right? And,
exactly.
and
I'll be
now
honest, like, so I think that happens everywhere, right? So like, I don't think that's just a LATAM thing. I think that's the equivalent in America of somebody paying an SDR $50,000 a year, and then they train them up, and then 6 months later they go get a job for a high-paying company, 75, 80K.
Exactly.
And I just think the numbers here are more like $1,000 to $1,500. Is that same $50,000 a year job in America, and then $2,500 to $3,500 is that sweet spot for 24 months, right? That we've seen. And then talk to me a little bit about, like, Danny, you've seen this a lot. Like, what's like the difference between the mentality when it comes to like commission and base in here versus America?
Okay, so yeah, from what we've seen, definitely in LATAM, a good base, a competitive base goes a long way, right? So we've definitely noticed that candidates are more willing to accept a base, let's say at 2K, right? 2,200 and a lower base, instead of being offered, let's say, a base of 1,500, give it, right? 1,200, but you have the opportunity to make 3K, 5K. Again, industries will vary. Obviously, in real estate, there's some really good high ticket value, but yes, to answer Amir's question, a competitive base is always going to be better than offering a low base.
I'm gonna say it, and I don't want. I'm gonna call it out, right? I think the difference in America is that young youth live with their parents and have less overhead, so they're more likely to take half base, half commission. And I think in Latin America, the youth are taking care of the family. That's
accurate.
It's accurate.
That's
Let's,
accurate.
let's call it a LATAM GTM show, man. We don't bullshit here. All right,
I think
we get right to it.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to call out before what we were asking about, if they're not ramping up their new hires on time, right? I see it as it's a two-way street, right? So I've noticed that candidates at times oversell themselves like crazy. So of course the company that's hiring them is comfortable, or they didn't do their due process as far as like, let me see what campaigns you've already launched, you've already had success. So guys, candidates out there, make sure that, of course, we're selling ourselves, but don't oversell, because during those 30, 60 days, that's where they're going to see were you just able to talk, or are you able to walk the walk? So back to that is sell yourself appropriately, don't oversell yourselves. And then with the hiring companies, the biggest mistake that I've noticed is if you're hiring an SDR, why are you not doing a role play with them? There's a lot of people that might be great at selling themselves, but maybe they're not so good at selling your specific
a good
product.
point. What are the top 5 obvious misses you see VPs of sales doing on an SDR interview?
Yeah, right away, not role playing and putting them to the test to what they've supposedly been able to do over X amount of years. Obviously, the competitive salary, if you're coming in and you're thinking, oh, I already was able to hire someone abroad, let it be from Asia, let it be from Europe. We can't come with the same mentality as, okay, $1,500, $1,200, that's it. We need to look at the market. Let's see what type of English level experience. So those two are huge losses. Another one would be if you don't have a manager in place. If you don't have a manager in place, that means that you as a CEO, the owner, the founder, you're going to have to manage these individuals. And if you don't, there's going to be churn, right? So as Alejandro mentioned before, you're gonna train someone or your team's gonna train someone, you're gonna let them go and they're gonna go to the competition and now they're even more knowledgeable thanks to your training. I'd say those 3 pieces is what I'm noticing mainly. And then finally, when we treat our remote hires as remote and we actually don't bring them into sales meetings, you're not following up and understanding what challenges they're having. And it's like, okay, I was sold really good. Alejandro's great at what he does. I'm just gonna let it run. You're gonna let it run, and then 3 months down the line, 4 months down the line, or before, if there aren't any meetings being booked, you're gonna realize that I needed to be involved or I needed a manager involved. So that's something that's crucial.
Yeah. I want to add something to that. So there's few things that I've seen over the 10,000 people that we placed is specificity sells more than overselling yourself, right? I seen candidates that they talk about, I use 20, 30 different tools, but they're not overselling the outcomes. So it's like, talk about what you achieve with those tools and just pick 5 different tools, 3 tools, but just talk about percentages, talk about how long it took you, talk about how you put those tools together. And most likely you're going to be considered a lot faster than just...
Dude, it's a perfect segue to Alejandro. Alejandro, man, you started I think 8 months ago working for that high-flying e-commerce agency. Talk to me about the onboarding, the tools you used, what month 1, 2, and 3 look like, what kind of booked meetings you were making, how you were booking meetings, what kind of pipeline you were generating.
Yeah, so this is actually a cool role that because I get to build out a lot of the stuff. We didn't have initially when I joined, we didn't have a lot of tools.
So this company was set you up to fail, and they got lucky because you're good. That's okay.
That was kind of like what we agreed to is that I was joining to help build a lot of this out because.
So you were doing almost like a market validation. You were like the pioneer SDR.
Right. The idea was to just start.
Build the program.
Building out the outbound program from scratch, seeing what industries were the best for the company.
So they didn't know. They gave you. So basically, they hired you. You built the outbound program. They didn't even give you an ICP. They give you a playbook.
Yeah. We had a playbook that for sure. And they had an idea. This is a company that receives a lot of inbound, so they had an idea of who they want to go after.
Okay.
We've had to obviously make tweaks to that, of course, as we start to really understand the market that we're going after. We understand okay.
So they took the inbound, gave that information to you, said, "These are the profile. Go get them."
Yeah, exactly. So
what did the onboarding look like?
Just very.
If you're a VP of sales, listen to this. Do not onboard like this company.
No,
what did it look like? They gave you a napkin.
It was pretty much like, hey, here's
treasure hunts.
Here's a few calls. Go listen to them. Here's the website. Here's the playbook, and just research it and start building out your list, start building out the messaging, start
Execute.
just basically executing, right? That's when coming from Apollo as an account executive, I suggested it as a tool. And
So you also worked as an AE at Apollo.
yeah, I've also had the opportunity to work as an account
You've been around the
executive.
block, man.
Yeah.
You've been around the block.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think for anybody listening, I think this is kind of also what we tell people, right? Like, if you're in the United States or you're in Latin America and you want to hire an entry level SDR and you don't have a program, good luck. 95% failure rate, right?
Yeah.
I think that the company that hired you got lucky in the sense that I believe that companies should either hire like a GTM leader or a sales manager or just use an agency, right? The agency. They were an agency, right? They're telling e-commerce companies, right?
Yeah.
So we noticed this too, and that's kind of why we titled this episode, what does $3,000 get you in the United States? Because you know what it really gets you? It gets you a guy that's 9 to 10 grand in America. And why? Because the US dollar translates to peso and the cost of living is lower here. So people always have this misconception that like LATAM talent is cheap. But they don't understand that if you make $10,000, you spend $10,000, you got zero in a month, right? If you make $3,000, you spend $2,000, and you got $1,000 left over. Who's got a better lifestyle, right? I live in Colombia. We're shooting from Colombia. I live here because leverage, right? So like, if you're going to come to Colombia, if you don't have product market fit, if you don't have a manager, right, you want to hire someone who's a top 5% SDR, and that is somebody who has cold call for, call centers, cold call for staffing companies,
Right.
cold call for Cloud Task, right?
Yeah.
And then we couldn't afford you anymore, so we went to Apollo. Shout out to Tim Zhang for taking all our teammates, taking our best talent. So basically, it's like a big lesson to learn is that like, yes, you know what? I'll tell you the truth, right? If you're a U.S. company, if you got your playbook down, you got your tools, you got your systems,
Your
right?
manager.
You got your manager, you got your inbound leads to follow up with, go hire 50 SDRs at $2,000 a month. I believe I have a big data company that's doing that right now. They're scaling to 100. They've been around for 8 years to do 80 million in revenue. They don't need our help, right? They need talent, screened, interviewed, paid, right? Yeah. And that's the same thing in America, right? If you have they work with call centers that do sales at 40, 50K. But if you come to LATAM without an outbound program, without a manager, and you want to hire the bottom 25%, good luck. You're gonna train them for 8 months, and then we're gonna get them hired by someone else with a system for $3,000. And I'm like, is that the trap? And why do you think VPs of sales fall into this trap? Why is it like such an extreme where like they're like, yo, we're gonna only hire in San Francisco and pay $15K a month, or we're only gonna hire in Colombia $2K? Like what is this extreme gap?
I wish I understood, right? I don't
Danny,
think
do you understand?
Yeah,
it's clear to me.
I was going to jump in.
Danny
And
thinks
what
he
I've
knows.
noticed is it's bad marketing. So even on a personal level, I've noticed that people that are living in Colombia, hey, I've been here for 6 years. Come here, you could live with $1,000. You have those people, and then you have people that have been living here for 2-3 years, and then they're being honest. They're saying, hey, the cost of living is lower, but at the same time, don't believe the first thing you hear, right? So I believe that these VPs of sales either have hired abroad at a very low rate and they were lucky, or they've heard how other companies, how other individuals have been able to hire this golden person, right? And they were able to execute X, Y, Z. And then one of the biggest things, I think it's the roles. Like people are confusing that the role that you're looking for, right? So an executive assistant, personal assistant, I'm not diminishing anyone that's in that role, but obviously that there's a big piece to it, right? So if you're looking for Alejandro to help you out,
Salespeople get paid
process,
more for a reason. That's what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. So if you have a great salesperson, don't believe your buddy that hired someone from Colombia at 1,000, 1,200. Have an interview, do a good role play, understand what type of technology this person's already been involved with, what they can bring to the table. And then one of the biggest things for companies is you can notice when you have a call center agent in front of you, and then you notice when you have someone that's been around the block and that can be looked at as a consultant, right? Hey, I've actually used Apollo, so I got them to use Apollo because they didn't have anything when it came to lead generation. So I think that's also a big piece.
So, Danny, what you're saying is that they're flexing more on the discount instead of flexing how long they're keeping the people and what's the revenue generated from that.
1,000%.
And they're not even, the funny part is that if they were flexing on the discount, right, and then they took the extra budget and hired a trainer, put an onboarding system, right, bought leads, paid for marketing,
Leads, exactly.
they're flexing on the discount, and then they're just taking that capital and buying, groceries for their office and getting coffee service and just wasting it down the drain when revenue's literally their pipeline. We see it all, but I'll repeat, like anyone listening to this, right? Like we talk about LATAM, this stuff happens in America all the time, right? You go to the United States, you go to Miami, their sales jobs are $35,000, $40,000 a year, and the cost of living is 70, right? And then there's a job in Miami where they're going to pay you $250K. The difference that I noticed about LATAM in Miami or LATAM in the United States is that the range is so much higher in the States, where the range here is compressed, where it's like 1,000 is entry level and 5,000 is like top 1%. In America, it's like 30,000 for the bottom and then like 300,000 for the top, right? So people get really confused, I think, because they know what the range is in the States, right? They know it's the spectrum, and they're not able to translate it to, because it doesn't work in their brain. They're not processing the fact that
Action or? Because the internet has been dropping.
we're good.
Me too.
We're recording issues with internet is
Cool. So Dave, talk to me about like the GTM role. Do you see it as like separate from the SDR manager? Is it coming together?
I think it's coming together, right? Because what I used to see is sales leader, and there used to be like, heavy dials, let's review your calls, let's review your cores. But then the GTM manager, they're more like systematic. They want to make sure everything is well connected so that the team is well equipped. So it's like CRM, transcriptions, having the right tools, the right follow-up system to push after the call. But everything is coming in together because of the technology. So it's like the traditional salesperson that's pushing for calls now has to be also a GTM leader, because the companies that are not using the technology that most of these guys are using, they're staying behind. So
do you think it works better if you get a GTM leader and a sales manager? And do you think it's safe to say that an SDR manager is more a manager of people and emotions and training and cold calling,
Yes.
and one's a system?
Yes, I'll take the second one. Because-
I was going to ask real quick for what he was saying. Or SDR managers, do you think they would go for a product or service that's less complex? Because when you're saying GTM engineer, is it possible that the type of industries that need those people, right? Let's say retail, right?
Yeah.
Retail might not necessarily
Yeah,
need
100%.
a GTM, but they might need that sales manager, right? That still is making sure that the rep is doing what they do. So do you think it also has to do with the industries?
It has to do 1,000% with the industry, right? Because a lot of companies are not investing in the tools that most of these guys are using, right? But with the industries that we deal with, based on our hires, I've seen that they're going from the traditional to AI powered, not only on the SDR piece, but also on the managers, because or those they can't keep up, or they're not going to be in the same terms. So then when the SDR asks for something, if that guy is in the traditional model, they don't even know how to address
But
that
like,
problem.
are we looking at the same thing where like you have a symphony,
Yeah.
right? And you have like the guy, the orchestrator guy.
Yeah.
Like, is that the SDR manager? He keeps everybody on rhythm, and people right now are like they're almost confusing it where they're like, there's a GTM guy and there's a sales manager, but they're always just really the orchestrator, and is it two people going like this? One with systems, one with people now, or is it just like the fact that people use titles and forget about the outcome, and the real outcome is keeping your SDR team in sync, and in sync means that they're calling the right ICP, saying the right things, and producing consistent results. Like, well, like, because I kind of think that people are like they're getting lost with the title, and they're not focusing on the fact that this is your team's orchestrator, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you see it?
The way that I see it is that the GTM leaders, they're in the back managing the systems. They're not really there at as much as an SDR manager. The
Except
SDR manager,
you're running our GTM system
Huh?
and you're taking calls.
yeah, I mean, I'm a hybrid in this. But what I'm saying is, I'm going based on my experience, because I used to have a manager that would just tell me dial more, what's going on, you're good, everything's good. But then when I had to consult somebody that's managing the system, it was a whole different approach, and they're usually not as seen in the team. You know, they're usually like.
Are we talking about the transition from rep to operator?
Yeah. But it's not only happening in the front line; it's also happening in the back end.
The whole business is going from
Yeah.
rep to operator.
Yeah.
Did you see that at, I'm sure you saw that at Apollo, Alejandro, right? Did Apollo have outbound SDRs?
They started building the team when I was working there as an account executive. They started doing their outbound team again.
So they start, okay, so again, right?
Yeah.
So
a lot of companies stopped.
So lots of
doing
people
outbound.
do it, they stop again, they do
Because they
it.
just leaned on inbound and everything. But the problem with inbound is that you don't get to pick the opportunities. They just come to you, right? With outbound, you get to pick. That's the company that I want to work for. This is the ICP that I want.
Good point.
Right? With inbound, it's just you just have to sit there and then qualify.
Are you calling me like, you see my content?
Yeah, exactly.
Click on it.
Yeah. So I've noticed that a lot too, right? With like outbound versus inbound, right? And that's why I think companies need to consistently do outbound. But with outbound, it's hard for it to be predictable and just repeatable because there's so many variables. Maybe, I think I heard something like it's like 5% of your total addressable market is actually in market to purchase your product, right?
3%.
It's 3%. Yeah, I think so. It's crazy, right? So I think one thing that's important is that when you go build an outbound team, you need to understand that as well. And if it's a program that you're starting from scratch, analyze that, right? What are the expectations that I have, and don't have like crazy expectations about what a program can get.
But does
initially.
outbound drive inbound?
100%, yeah, because you raise awareness about the business. Maybe someone doesn't know about that they have a problem just yet, but you let them know on a quick phone call, and now they went and go check out your website.
Like after they hang up on you, then they go to the
Yeah,
website,
they
sign
go
up,
to the
and
website.
David gets it on his calendar and takes credit for it. David, do you think outbound drives inbound?
100%.
Danny?
100%.
Why do you think people don't ever say that? Why do they never talk about that?
Because they don't have a content engine to back that up.
Why are
afterwards.
SDRs never measured on website traffic?
That's a great question.
I want a good answer. I want you to talk into the mic too.
Because marketing wants to take the credit sometimes. They want to.
I'll give you another question.
Yeah, and I think it has to be like,
Los dos.
yeah, working together. Because if not,
So
then-
basically, marketing and sales doesn't exist, and it's just a revenue team.
Yes.
yeah, it has to be a revenue team. It can't just be like
We have a revenue team here at CloudTask.
Right.
We don't have much revenue, but we have a revenue team. We got the alignment going on.
There we go.
Danny, you're coaching talent like crazy in LATAM. Are you seeing SDRs thinking about becoming AI operator? And like, because I think the next title, the boom, is gonna be GTM, but also AI SDR. And like people are confused because they're like, an SDR, AI SDR, they just think about agents. And I'm like, no, an AI SDR, in my opinion, is an SDR that knows how to manage a system and snipe the phone calls. But it's like the same thing as a guy in a factory. Back in the day, they made 100 shoes. Now they make 5,000, right? And they watch them, and then one gets off the conveyor belt, they fix it, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that like the big opportunity is AI SDRs, and we're going to see 5,000 highly trained AI SDRs, and they're going to be SDRs that use Claude, use GPT, use OpenClaw, and connect to the systems and call an open right away? Like, how does that, like, is that the future?
I definitely think so, because AI is just becoming a tool that you can't ignore anymore in sales, right? It's something that I use for research, something that I use for calling, like parallel.
What are you
diving,
using?
things like that.
ChatGPT, using Claude? Like, walk me through that.
I use Claude. I started off with ChatGPT, but just the business in general, everybody moved to Claude, so it was just like something that they asked us for. And actually, the CEO is pretty keen on everyone using AI, and for everything that they do, it's like just consistently.
So walk me through a day. You wake up, you go back to Claude. What do you ask Claude?
No,
I go to Claude every day.
One thing that I use it a lot for is research, because I don't have the time to sit down and find 100, 200 companies.
Did you use Claude to research this podcast?
A little bit. Not gonna lie, yeah. It's definitely something that you just use. I use it as a baseline, not as like my final product, but it does help me structure things. It helps me get my day organized. It helps me research and understand something that it would have taken me hours to do. So that's, and then I just use it as ammo for my cause, right? And just make me more powerful in what I can say. Maybe that I didn't see something that AI can help me point out, and that's where I think it could make you powerful. But I don't think AI will replace SDRs completely. I don't ever think that's going to be the case. So I think
people are finding that out the hard way. I think VPs, like we talked to a lot of CROs, and they say the same thing. They're like, my board made me hire AI SDRs. My CEO made me hire, and now my pipeline is gone. Yeah. Right. And that's like our inbound traffic that we're coming.
100%. I think one of the roles that I was in at a company, not going to mention which one, was cut because they wanted to shift into just inbound and have everything done by AI. And funny enough, now they're actually hiring SDRs again, because they found out like we just can't sit here and wait for people to come to us. We have to go and
their pipeline went down.
No, in America, like, there's a reason why there's 239 GTM experts on Tropic.
They're hiring SDRs too.
Exactly.
And ironically, I tagged someone's profile in the comment of it.
No, and a lot of
scrolling post like 10 minutes ago.
No, like a lot of companies are letting go of talent, but they're paying the same on tokens and no pipeline.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. These token prices are going to be jacked up, right?
Yeah.
So like we're all getting hooked on low cost tokens, and then they're going to be like, yeah. So basically, it's like it's a really fast reshuffling, and people are going to find out, I guess, the hard way, that it's a combination of human and machine, right?
A combination, but to what Alejandro said, right? So AI is not here to replace humans, or SDRs. But if you're an SDR that's not keeping up with the pace, right, you're definitely going to get replaced.
By another human.
I've had these coaching calls, and I get excited as if I was a hiring company when I hear the person mention Nooks, that they're using Claude, that they've been able to create a workflow, that they're able to go to sleep and then wake up and see who's responded to their sequence. So the agents that I'm getting on calls with that are more old school, traditional, like, hey, yeah, man, I got the gift of gab. Give me someone's cell phone number and I'll call them. I'll book that meeting. that's good, but those are the ones that are going to be left behind. And again, yeah, those are the individuals that are getting those tools well sharpened, and they're ready to use Notion, they're ready to use Claude, all these AI tools. They're not getting replaced at all. But if you guys are not keeping up with today's technology, you will be replaced eventually.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think there's a lot of stuff that you used to see that was a plus. Like AI right now is like a plus to know, but I guess sooner or later is going to be a requirement when you go sign up.
It's like
for
using a
company.
computer, right? Like, do you use Windows?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I agree with you. It's kind of like it levels up the playing field for everybody, right? When everybody has access to Claude or ChatGPT and all these tools, right? So like, I think there's going to be a rebalancing where it's going to be almost back to like first principles, where like the person who picks the phone call can make the conversation, right? The person who takes the inbound call and actually asks questions and qualifies and get deals. You've been in AE, you've been in SDR. What role do you think is harder and why?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the hardest role is like that hybrid AE that has to go hunt and also close whatever he hunts. I think that's the hardest, definitely, because it's hard to find time for everything. Prospecting sometimes.
But do you
needs
think
8
AE
hours.
should be prospecting?
Yes, 100%, because you don't want to just depend on the inbound that the company gives you and what the SDRs can get for you. If you already know your product, if you know the challenges, you're speaking to people every day that you know what they're going through, just go relate that and tell the story to be outbound and tell people, but also just organize yourself correctly. Use AI, use tools like Apollo, Outreach, all of these great tools to also help yourself do things faster. Maybe you need to set up something like Orem, Nooks to help you make more dials in a day, right? Because obviously if you don't have the time and you're making just 20 calls a day, you won't get the results, right? So that's where I feel like you need to know about the right tools to correctly set up, but don't also not get caught up with setting things up and not executing.
Yeah.
No, I feel like
execute, and just learn as you go. That's ultimately what'll make you better. But yeah,
I didn't ask, man, how many meetings you make in a month at your current place?
right now, it's been a ramp up, right? Currently, last month, I sat at 17 meetings booked with 12 completed, right? And that's
I like that. Booked and completed. There's a big difference.
there's a big difference,
Yeah.
right? Because you can book them, but they don't show up. So I think completed and qualified is definitely what you need to aim for. Because if not, you'll just give crap meetings that don't close, and you're at the end of the day, as an SDR, you will be measured on ROI. Okay,
Sure.
how many of these deals that you brought in actually closed, right? So as an SDR, I think it's also important to focus on that, not just booking meetings, but quality meetings. Does it make sense to waste my AE's time and this other person's time? So it's important to understand, like, not just, setting up a meeting, but what happens after, and making sure that it makes sense. And that way you make everybody happy. You don't waste everybody's time.
And actually, that's a really good point, because even on the interview side, right? A lot of people will say, "Hey, I can make 800 calls a day."
Yeah.
That's just scratching the surface, right?
That's activity,
What
yeah.
business leaders want to know is what type of outcomes came out of those 1,000 calls. How many people did you connect with? How many meetings were booked? And at the end of the day, how many actually converted?
Exactly.
Right?
I used to, like I say, productivity, activity doesn't mean productivity, right? You could just sit there and send 1,000 emails, make 500 dials, and literally not get anything because you're just throwing spaghetti at the
But I
wall.
think it's a
See what
misconception
sticks,
of both sides, not only the seller and the buyer, but it's also the buyer.
Right.
Because the buyer's like, oh, I'd rather interview the one that does 300 calls than 200.
Exactly,
And
right.
it's like,
So that's why I say, like, you need to really focus on, like, what are the results that you want to get from a program like this, and be realistic. I think that's really important too, because sometimes there's companies who don't have product market fit, don't have an outbound program yet, but they want 20
Expecting-
meetings
yeah, exactly.
from their SDRs.
They're not shopping with outcomes,
and that's
right?
the only way that you'll actually earn commission. Who's going to be motivated that way? People are going to probably join your company 2 months down the line. Either you're firing them, or they're finding a new job, right? So what I've seen a lot of companies do successfully is that they actually give you a draw maybe for the first 3 months, right? So you can be accustomed to making that money, and that way on month 4 comes in, you're already accustomed to making that money. You're not gonna drop down. So you're gonna hustle real hard to stay at that level, right? But some companies don't really see that, and they're just like, okay, put your skin in the game. But you know, the SDR job can be frustrating, right? You go through rejection all day, you get no's, and then you're also not making money. I think is also something that companies need to look at. And in those programs where initially you don't know what's going to happen, maybe consider that and help your BDR out as well with maybe some commission that they can start feeling that sense of, okay, this is what I need to aim for to make this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this too when I'm talking to you, right? Like I know, like we've helped a lot of people get hired, and we have 60 roles here, and it is so funny.
64.
How 64. It's so funny how less complicated the other roles are to the SDR, right? It's like there's like never been, because it's like, ever see that meme where like everyone's just pointing at like each other as like it's their fault? Yeah. There's no other role that has so many like gurus, leader, not GTM, right? Maybe, but it's like you get hired for like technical one support, right? A product leader, CTO, front-end developer, back-end developer, SEO, marketing director, social media. Like, you ain't going nowhere forever. You show up, you work hard, you're not going anywhere. But like, there's probably 300,000 SDRs in LATAM and America that are like cycling around. Do you think it's a fundamental issue? And do you think that the SDR role itself is so complicated because it relies on so many different variables that people can't control?
Yeah. I think that's why it's so hard, because there's so many variables. You can have a great rep, you can have a good structure, but if you don't have product market fit, you're not.
And product market changes. It's like the tides,
exactly.
right?
Yeah, you can like it changes so quick. So I think that's what also hurts a lot of companies, and like what I mentioned, they just don't have clear expectations on what they want from these programs.
Oh, we know.
They just like hire, and we want more pipeline, but what does that really mean, right? Yeah. Everyone wants more pipeline, but like, are you setting this up correctly? Do you
There's
really
so many
understand
variables.
who do you want to go after? Like, do you know how large the total addressable market really is?
Yeah.
Based on your ICP? Because a lot of companies, they have that problem. Like, when they really go out and try to see how large their total addressable market is,
I have no idea.
It's just like they have like 100
people they could sell to, and they're like, we're going to automate it.
Yeah.
And they ruin everything.
Yeah, and so you can't really do that, right? So I think that's the biggest kind of like challenge with that role, and just not setting them up properly. That's with either tools or with the right management team or the right type of feedback loop, because SDRs consistently need feedback. You can't just, someone could be doing great for a month and then next month they're
like, it's like the MMA fighter of the business world. Yeah. Right?
They're the hunters, yeah. They have to go and break down barriers, like get 2,000.
Not everyone's lucky as Dave, just get inbound traffic on his calendar.
It's hard. It's a hard role, but it's also rewarding, and I think people have learned that in Latin America you can really grow within companies and start opening up a career for yourself with these type of SDR roles. Like myself, I started off like 10 years ago in sales, and I've been able to build a whole career out of it, help my family out, just position myself completely different, and it's thanks to this. So I mean, to anybody out there looking at this, you at 21, 22, 23, you can start off in your first role and then grow into, providing for your family.
And building a family, man.
Building a family, yeah. So it's motivating, and I hope a lot of people can fall into this as well. And
that's a good segue to let's wrap this up in a good way, man. What's next for LATAM in the United States in the next 10 years?
A lot of tech companies have their eyes on us now. Right, we have events like AI Summit coming up, Colombia Tech Week happening every year. So we're getting a lot more exposure with companies like NAN, Make, 11 Labs that I met last year. So
Shout out to the Bogota talent if you're in
Yes,
in town
we're
next
coming for you
May
guys.
9th. You want to meet with David Manjura? He'll be there.
We're coming. We actually got people hired on the spot.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
so that's going to happen more often, right? I did want to close this with a very strong question, right? My question is, why is SDRs not building in public? And the reason why I ask is because, like, I used to not build in public. I used to think it would never influence my pipeline. And ever since I started building in public, it has.
Are you calling out Alejandro?
Yeah. That might be a call out for me. And
Shots
that's
fired.
something. Hey, look, that's something that I really respect Dave for, and that I've seen you've done. I don't think I've done that enough, right? I've built a LinkedIn profile. I've connected.
You
with
got a big red
thousands
laptop.
of folks. I have a huge laptop here. That, but what I think, yeah, what you're saying is build your personal brand. I think that's what's next for me. I haven't put enough time into that as I think I should.
Because it wasn't an attack, it was a question, man.
So no. I think it is
personally.
important, and it is going to help build a lot of pipeline and open up opportunities for people.
I think his
100%.
answer is they're shy.
Is it shy?
Yeah, shyness. Yeah,
Or they're not motivated by the
a lot of
marketing team?
salespeople don't like to be too out there, right? We like to close deals, and
They're afraid of inbound.
Because I'll be honest with you, I use my LinkedIn in every call.
Yeah.
Let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm going to be publishing.
Not
candidates
everybody's number one in HR, bro.
Hey, they can learn from this. They can learn from this. So I'm just asking this because
a
like
fair
I
point.
talk to a lot of people, and it's sometimes like I'm too busy calling. But it's like, but if, for example, I get this common objection. Why don't I just build an article? And the moment I build an article, I'm gonna feel more confident if that objection comes again. So it's like I started applying that. I learned that from Amir, and it works.
Dude, we can talk.
Dave,
We
you
can
know
coach
what
this guy after, bro.
I think there's just people that we're not probably not too used to like video content creation, editing, stuff like that. So we probably fear that it's not gonna look as professional. So since we have like so much time we're putting into like the other sell stuff, that's probably what consumes.
I think there's a challenge being made right now. I think David just challenged you.
I accept the
do it.
challenge.
I think what I heard is David challenged you to build out
No,
loud.
it's a question I often ask.
You know why he's pissed off? Because if you build out loud, you can help the younger Alejandro get more opportunities, man. Because you've been
love that.
hiding in the shadows, booking meetings every fucking day.
It's just working.
But
10 years.
nobody sees you. They see David.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people that have a lot to share in LATAM. You know, just like yourself, like Danny, like myself, that been doing this for 10 years, and now we.
What about
kind
me?
of
I'm Latino now too.
Yeah.
Paisa.
He's paisa now.
But I think the main thing. Oh, go ahead.
What I'm saying is like we helped pave the road, and I actually like I kind of like feel proud of that too, and just
100%.
So you're gonna have a
congrats to you
speech
guys,
on
too.
our sellers night on June 16th right here.
Yeah,
around
I
events.
would- I would
Okay,
love
'cause you're the
to,
man of the hour.
You know me, like
Yeah,
I
there's
love
a couple
speaking,
challenges coming out of
motivational
this.
Talks and all
You
that
thought we were
good
just
stuff.
inviting you on a podcast, huh?
No, I'm down for all of it. Yeah, I love it because I think a lot of people need that extra motivation. A lot of people don't. Like when I was 10 years ago, I was looking up to Amir, right? He was the one doing it. He was the one moving all of this. So we were trying to learn from him and really catch on to a lot of this and learn about business development when it was pretty much new to us. But now I feel like there's so many opportunities out there. What you mentioned, companies now have their eyes in Colombia that a lot of people could take advantage of, and you never know what you can end up being the director of marketing, right? Because GTM is just has so many routes. You could be a VP of sales or a director of BDRs, things like that. Or if you just want to stay selling and just make money, that's also good. Like, because I feel like the SDR role needs to stop being treated as the entry role that just anybody can get, because it's not that. You don't want.
I think it should be.
anyone.
I think it should be more higher paying than account executives.
Because
man.
you don't want just anyone, the guy who just came into your company going to represent
No, you want Alejandro Obel
You
going
want
to
someone
represent
that
you.
knows, right? You want someone that could represent you good. So I think that's also really important. Don't treat the SDR like the entry level role.
Exactly.
Build them up, invest in them. But it's also on us as SDRs to also learn a lot, invest in ourselves, invest in like learning and being open to learning, right? Not being.
Like I'll give you a background, like how it works for me, right? Because like when I started
He's
building in
coaching
public,
you.
I had a lot of fear. I thought they were gonna question me. I thought maybe was gonna think I'm not being productive. It was. So
I don't
many-
think you're productive, but that's a separate conversation.
It was so many different things that it was fear that I had. But then I realized like it's my learning, is the way that I actually learn and engrave that learning. Because if I talked about it on a call, if I went back to my team system to know how to address that objection again, and now I'm building an article, and now I'm known for that article,
Right.
and then now I have more pieces of content from that article, I'm never gonna forget about that objection. It starts becoming part of me now, my speech, and also my narrative. So that's the way that I position. Is like if I publish it, I'm gonna learn it, and it was just that self commitment every time, and it just started compounding to the point. I'm like, let me start showing myself. Let me start. How can I make a picture of David and then connect that with what our buyers are dealing with, and then it just starts compounding. So like that's the way that I approached it, and it works. You learn more about your business. More people approach you for more than just like can
Dude,
I
this is
hire?
turning into a pep talk. This is awesome. No, you know what? Say something though. If you're making 17 meetings, 12 confirmed, it sounds like you add social media and you got 24 meetings, 19 confirmed, right?
Absolutely. I think, a lot of like that's,
Well,
there's always room for improvement, right? Like for me, it's that, right? How do I use video and content and posting on LinkedIn to become a thought leader?
Yeah,
there?
Dan, you used to be shy in video before you became handsome. What was that?
It all changed.
What was
It all
that journey
changed.
like?
Well, what I was gonna say is with Dave, and it happened with me personally, is I believe that it's also the companies that allow their reps to be creative. So if you're an SDR and you're in a role and you literally have 120 calls to make, 50 emails to send, where do I take the time to be creative? And is the company allowing me to start being creative, right? I think that's like also a piece of, I was shy before. I was able to have that opportunity to be creative, and I said, all right, this looks like it's working. Let's try it out. But I think it's also, the rep needs to understand that it is helpful. It's going to help them. Like you said, I post some content. I'm going to use that. I'm going to leverage that. But also the company needs to realize that it's not a old school SDR anymore, right? Like we need to become thought leaders, because that's going to attract those ICPs that I'm ultimately, speaking with. And if they see that I'm posting not just on LinkedIn, but in general, then I look like a thought leader, right? So for companies out there, make sure that if you guys are hiring an SDR, you want them to be a hybrid, right? You guys are looking for someone else than just someone that's making calls. You got to give them that space as well.
Yeah.
Cool. I see this a lot right now, right? From LATAM talent. I got on calls with people, they're like, I'm like, what kind of job you want? They're like, account executive, executive assistant, customer success. I'm like, tell me about your stories. They're like, one time I was an account executive, sold $1 million for Google, and then like to keep going. Anybody who's listening to this, if you sold $1 million for Google, stay in sales, all right, and just talk about that, right? So I think a lot of times people also have to learn, like tying like the whole video to is to like tie your lane and stay focused, right? Because I think, I think there's such good talent out there in Latin America, and people just need to kind of see more of like, I'm gonna stay in this lane and here's my career, right? Mm-hmm. Like the US market and LATAM are gonna become one, right? And just plan for a future where remote work is here to stay. AI is gonna make your job faster, cheaper, more efficient, you're gonna be global. I'm like, we're in Latin America, but like how many like Americans, British, UK, Australia, like it's not even, it's like a global market now, right? So like at the end of the day, I think, take the time to just kind of like stick in the lane and see the career out for 10 years. But guys, this has been awesome. Everybody for tuning in for the LATAM GTM show. Alejandro, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
It's been awesome seeing your career going. Danny, happy now that you're handsome. It's been a long way. And I like the soprano outfit on David Manjura. Tune in to the next episode. And if you're hiring in the next 30, 60 days, you want to do it right the first time. And if you're looking to actually see what you're worth, we have a new role intelligence system where we can analyze exactly who you are, what you are, where your career is going to go, and help you find a permanent home for an awesome U.S. company. Tune in next time. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey.